The money hit her palm like it always did. Thin, tired bills, still warm from the office envelope. Rosa Alvarez didn't even count it. She walked straight past the marble fountain outside the Beaumont estate gates, past the iron crest that screamed Beaumont in gold, and she placed the envelope into the trembling hands of a stranger, crouched beside a stroller. A young mother, 2 children, one of them coughing so hard his tiny shoulders jerked like they were trying to break free of his ribs. Rosa pressed the envelope into her fingers anyway. "Take it," she whispered. "Please, before anyone sees." From behind the tinted window of a black sedan, Damien Beaumont, the millionaire, who owned the mansion, the company, and in many ways the lives inside it, watched the cleaner give away her entire paycheck. And what he didn't know was that this wasn't charity, it was repayment. And then she said something to the woman that made Damien's breath catch so hard it hurt. "Tell him I'm sorry," Rosa murmured, eyes shining. "Tell him I never stopped praying for him, even when he took my son." Damien's fingers clenched around his phone, his son, until he noticed the one detail that didn't belong, something glinting at Rosa's throat when she leaned forward. A small silver necklace with a broken clasp, and a tiny charm shaped like a star. Damien's blood went cold, because that necklace wasn't hers. That necklace had been buried for 12 years inside a velvet box, hidden in his late wife's drawer. The day she died, he didn't understand how it was possible. He only knew one thing: Rosa Alvarez was hiding a truth that had his family name written all over it. And if she was brave enough to give away her pay, then whatever she was protecting had to be worth more than money. The sedan door opened, and the billionaire stepped out, not knowing that within days, the truth about his son would break him in a way no market crash ever could. Damien Beaumont was the kind of man newspapers described with one word: untouchable. He had built Beaumont Industries from a modest inherited firm into a glass and steel empire, shipping, tech, real estate, each department a kingdom, each boardroom a battlefield. He always won. He lived in a mansion that looked like it had been designed to intimidate the sky. Tall windows, cold marble, security cameras that blinked like sleepless eyes. Inside, everything was controlled. The temperature, the lighting, the staff schedule, even the silence felt scheduled. And in the center of that silence lived the only heir Damien admitted to having: 14-year-old Elias Beaumont. Elias had everything money could buy: private tutors, rare sneakers, custom-made suits for charity galas, where he never smiled. But he walked through the house like a boy wearing a heavy coat in summer, always uncomfortable, always sweating, always angry. He wasn't a spoiled child. He was a lonely one. After Damien's wife, Celeste, died 12 years ago, grief didn't soften Damien, it sharpened him. He didn't cry. He purchased distractions. He didn't heal. He controlled. And he didn't raise Elias so much as manage him, like a fragile asset he couldn't afford to lose. That was why every staff member feared Damien. Not because he yelled every day, because he didn't need to. A look from him could cut your hours in half. A pause from him could erase your job. And cleaners were the most vulnerable, because cleaners saw everything. Dust didn't just settle on furniture. It settled on secrets. Rosa Alvarez was the newest cleaner. Not young, not old. 34, maybe. Hair always pulled back. No makeup. No jewelry, except that broken clasp star charm at her throat. She'd been hired 3 weeks earlier by Marianne Klein, the head of staff. And in 3 weeks, Rosa had become the subject of whispers, because she moved through the mansion differently, like someone who knew the layout before she learned it, because she avoided certain rooms with a strange reverence, and because Damien, a man who noticed nothing unless it threatened him, had begun to notice her, not out of kindness, out of suspicion. It started with small things: Rosa refusing to enter the West Wing even when Marianne ordered her, Rosa flinching at the sound of certain footsteps, like she recognized them, Rosa staring at a framed photograph in the hallway too long, Celeste Beaumont holding a newborn wrapped in blue, and that necklace, that star charm. Damien had seen it twice now, once when Rosa bent to pick up the fallen photo frame, and again yesterday, when she gave away her pay outside the gates. That charm wasn't random. It was Celeste's. Damien knew it the way he knew the shape of his own anger. He had kept it hidden for 12 years, or at least he thought he had. And now it was on the throat of a cleaner with no real history. Damien couldn't decide what disgusted him more: That Rosa might be a thief, or that someone had been inside his grief without his permission. He watched from the estate gate, face carved from control. Rosa turned and saw him. Her eyes widened, not with the fear of losing a job, with the fear of being found out. "Miss Alvarez," Damien said. "Mr. Beaumont," Rosa replied, voice too steady for a woman caught. "You just gave away your paycheck." Rosa's throat moved as she swallowed. "I was helping." Damien's gaze slid to the stroller, the coughing child, the girl clutching a torn rabbit, then back to Rosa. "You're paid to clean my house," he said quietly, "not to play saint outside my gate." Rosa's mouth tightened. "It's always someone's problem," she said softly, "even if they pretend it isn't." That defiance, so quiet, so unmoving, made Damien's temper flare. He stepped closer, his hand lifted almost without thinking, and his fingers closed around the star charm at her throat. Rosa flinched like he'd struck her. Damien's voice dropped, sharp as glass. "Where did you get this?" Rosa's eyes flicked to the street like she wanted to run. "It was my mother's," she lied. Damien held her gaze. He'd interrogated executives who tried to steal millions. He'd stared down reporters hunting scandal. He'd watched competitors crumble under his calm. And Rosa Alvarez was lying with the same terrified precision as someone protecting a child. Damien released the charm. "You start tomorrow at 6, he said. Rosa blinked. You start tomorrow at 6, Damien repeated. "And you don't leave this property again without telling my head of security." Rosa's face went pale. "You can't." "I can," Damien said. "Because you work for me." Rosa's fingers tightened around her tote bag strap. Damien turned slightly and spoke to his driver without lowering his voice. "Follow her." Rosa's eyes widened. And in that moment, Damien knew. Whatever she was hiding, she was already running from it, and he was going to catch her. The next morning, the mansion woke like a machine. Clinking cookware in the kitchen, hedges watered into glossy obedience, screens blinking in the security room. Every angle of the estate watched. Rosa arrived at the staff entrance with her tote bag hugged to her chest like armor. She had barely slept. She kept seeing Damien's fingers on her necklace, kept hearing, "Where did you get this?" It wasn't just a question. It was a warning. Marianne Klein waited at the staff hall, gray hair pinned tight, posture straight, eyes sharp enough to cut. "You're late by 2 minutes, Marianne said. Rosa glanced at the clock. "It's 5:58 am. Marianne's mouth did not smile. "In this house, you arrive early enough to be invisible." Rosa nodded. "I understand." Marianne handed her a task list. Hallways, guest rooms, library, West Wing storage crossed out in thick ink. Then in bold, "Do not enter Mr. Beaumont's office." Marianne leaned closer, voice low. "Mr. Beaumont noticed you yesterday." Rosa's throat tightened. "He doesn't notice staff," Marianne said. "Not unless they become a problem." "I'm not a problem," Rosa whispered. Marianne's eyes narrowed. "Everyone says that, until they are." Rosa pushed her cart down the corridor, trying to breathe, trying to focus on work. But the mansion felt like it remembered her. The turn of the hallway, the curve of the staircase, the smell of lemon polish and old perfume. Celeste's perfume still trapped in the wood. Rosa's first assignment was the library. She wiped dust off shelves that looked untouched for years. Her hands shook slightly. She told herself she was here for money, for Sophia, for survival. But her eyes kept drifting to one framed photo on the library side table. Celeste Beaumont, smiling softly, holding a baby wrapped in blue. Elias. Rosa's chest tightened. She reached out and adjusted the frame, fingertips lingering too long. A breath behind her, she turned. Elias stood in the doorway watching. "What are you doing in here?" he asked. "Cleaning," Rosa said, forcing her voice steady. Elias walked in slowly like a cat deciding whether to trust. "My dad doesn't like strangers." "I'm not a stranger," Rosa blurted, then regretted it. Elias stopped. His eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" Rosa swallowed hard. "I meant, I work here." Elias stepped closer. His gaze dropped to the necklace. "That," he said, voice quiet. "Where did you get it?" Rosa froze. "It's nothing," she said quickly. Elias reached out and took the charm between his fingers. Rosa flinched. He tugged lightly. The broken clasp shifted. The charm swung, and Rosa's collar slipped just enough to show the faint puncture scar at the base of her neck. Elias's eyes widened. "What is that?" Rosa jerked her collar back up. "Nothing. You're lying," Elias said flatly. Rosa's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "I'm working," she whispered. "Please, let me work." Then, as he turned to leave, he paused at the doorway. "My dad thinks you stole something," he said quietly. Rosa's heart slammed. Elias's voice dropped, almost like a warning to himself. "And if he thinks that, he won't stop until he ruins you." He walked away. Rosa stood alone, rag in hand, feeling the mansion close around her like a fist. Because Damien's suspicion wasn't the real danger. Vivian was, and if Damien pushed too hard, Vivian would strike. And the children would pay first. The proof object, Celeste's necklace, rested against Rosa's throat like a ticking clock, and somewhere in Rosa's tote bag, a sealed envelope waited. A DNA kit she hadn't dared to open yet. A weapon made of cotton swabs and truth. One that could save Elias or destroy everything. Damien Beaumont didn't eat lunch. He rarely did. Hunger was a distraction, and Damien lived on distraction like oxygen. He sat in his office, one wall glass, the city skyline framed like a painting he owned. Behind him, awards and magazine covers called him visionary and strategist and self-made, even though his inheritance had been the seed. In front of him, security footage played on silent loops. Rosa's small figure moving through his home. Rosa pausing too long near the photo. Rosa speaking with Elias. Damien's jaw tightened. He tapped his pen against the desk, a tiny repeated sound that meant trouble for everyone else. Jonah Price stood near the door with a tablet, shoulders tense. "You followed her last night," Damien said, not a question. "Yes, sir," and Jonah hesitated. Damien's eyes lifted slowly. "That hesitation is expensive, Jonah." Jonah exhaled. "She went to St. Bridget's Community Clinic. 40 minutes. Then to a low-income apartment building 3rd floor, Unit 3C. She argued with the building manager. It looked personal." Damien's pen stopped tapping. A clinic, an argument. A mysterious woman giving away her pay like she was buying absolution. "Background," Damien said. Jonah's gaze dropped to the tablet. "There's not much. No stable employment history, no credit, no social media. Last trace is a women's shelter. 12 years ago. 12 years," Damien's throat tightened without permission. 12 years ago, Celeste died. 12 years ago, Damien's life turned into a locked drawer. Damien stood abruptly. "Get Marianne," he ordered. While Jonah left, Damien walked to his desk drawer and stared at the lock. Inside that drawer was a velvet jewelry box. He hadn't opened it in months. He hadn't wanted to feel the emptiness where Celeste's necklace had once been. Now he pulled the key from his pocket and unlocked it. Opened the drawer. Lifted the velvet box, opened it. Empty. His stomach dropped all over again, because now he knew Rosa wasn't wearing a similar necklace. She was wearing the necklace. Meaning someone had taken it. Meaning someone had been inside Damien's private grief. Meaning Celeste's memory wasn't safe. And Damien's mind, always hungry for control, snapped into a single conclusion. Rosa Alvarez was not just a cleaner. She was a threat. Marianne entered, posture stiff. "Yes, Mr. Beaumont." Damien didn't sit. "Has the new cleaner done anything unusual?" Marianne hesitated. "She works quietly." Damien's gaze sharpened. "Don't protect her." Marianne swallowed. "She asked about the West Wing." Damien's head snapped. "What?" She said she needed supplies. Marianne rushed, but she looked like she was looking for something. Damien's hands clenched. The West Wing was sealed. A corridor of rooms Damien had never reopened after Celeste's death. Not because it was forbidden, because Damien couldn't survive what it held. "You will keep her away from the West Wing," Damien said. Marianne nodded quickly. "Yes, sir, and keep her away from Elias." Marianne hesitated. "Elias spoke to her this morning." Damien's jaw tightened. What did they talk about? "I don't know," Marianne admitted, but Elias looked unsettled afterward. Damien's temper flared. His son was already fragile. He refused to label it as sickness because sickness meant vulnerability. He didn't do vulnerability. "Watch her," Damien said. Marianne nodded and left. Damien returned to the security feed. Rosa moved down the corridor toward the stairwell. Toward the West Wing. Damien's pulse spiked. He grabbed his suit jacket and left his office, walking fast. He told himself he was preventing theft, preventing chaos. But deep down, another fear whispered. If Rosa found something in the West Wing, it might not be something she could steal. It might be something that would expose Damien, something Celeste had left behind, something Damien had buried with her. He reached the West Wing entrance in time to see Rosa standing at the threshold, her cart behind her, her hand near the door handle. "Miss Alvarez," Damien said. She froze, turned slowly, her eyes widened with that same terrified recognition. "What are you doing here?" "Supplies," Rosa said quickly. Marianne said. "Marianne did not authorize this wing," Damien said, stepping closer. Rosa's lips trembled. "I'm sorry. You gave away your pay yesterday. You have no history, and now you're here." Rosa's eyes stung. Damien's gaze dropped to her necklace. "That charm belonged to my wife," he said quietly. Rosa flinched. "Where did you get it?" Rosa's fingers curled over it. "It was my mother's," she lied. Damien's eyes narrowed. He reached out and touched it. Rosa jerked back like he'd struck her. "You're lying," Damien whispered. Rosa's voice cracked. "Please." And then a creak. The newer door at the end of the hallway opened slowly, as if the wing itself was exhaling. Damien's face drained. "Elias," he called. No answer. He strode forward. Rosa followed. They reached the nursery, frozen in time. Crib, dust sheets, blue walls. Elias stood in the middle holding a wooden box. "I found it," he whispered. Damien's heart slammed. "What did you do?" Damien snapped. Elias's voice shook. "I wanted to know what you're hiding." Damien stepped forward. "Give it to me." Elias clutched it tighter. "Number not until you tell me." His fingers slid under the lid. Damien lunged, too late. The wristband. The letter. "Father, unknown." Damien snatched the wristband, panic and rage twisting together. Elias stared, face pale. "What does that mean?" Damien lied without thinking. "It doesn't mean anything." Elias laughed bitterly. "You don't even hear yourself." Rosa's tears rose. Damien turned on her. "How do you know what's in that box?" Rosa swallowed, voice trembling. "I was here," she whispered. Damien froze. "What did you say?" 12 years ago." "I was here." Elias's eyes widened. "You knew my mom?" Rosa nodded. Damien's voice turned sharp. "Who are you?" Before she could answer, the doctor's call. Hereditary condition. DNA test. Damien's world tilted. He hung up, then snapped. "Get out." Rosa flinched. I said. "Get out." Rosa left, but not before whispering in Damien's ear, "You can fire me, Damien, but you can't erase what you did." Damien froze. She said his first name like she owned it, like she knew him, like she'd seen him before money turned him into steel. Damien stood in the nursery, wrists shaking, holding the wristband as if it could bite. Elias watched him, tears pooling. "Dad," Elias whispered. "Are you my dad?" Damien couldn't answer because the truth was no longer sealed in a wing. It was in his son's eyes, and Damien had no idea how to survive it. That night, Damien returned to his office and opened the wooden box again. He unfolded Celeste's letter, hands trembling. The first line hurt like a slap. "Damien, if you are reading this, it means you did not listen to me while I was alive." He kept reading. Celeste wrote of fear, of Vivian, of blackmail. Damien's stomach dropped. "Vivian," he read the final line, breath-catching. "Rosa knows the truth. She has the proof. Find her before Vivian does." Damien grabbed his phone. "Find Rosa Alvarez," he ordered Jonah. Jonah hesitated. "Sir, she left the property. You fired her." Damien's mouth tightened. "Find her anyway." Jonah swallowed. "Your sister called earlier. She requested the West Wing security footage." Damien's blood ran cold. "Denied," Damien snapped. He hung up and stared into the darkness beyond his office window. Vivian, his sister, the woman who had always handled family problems. If Celeste was warning him about Vivian, then Vivian wasn't just ambitious, she was dangerous. A knock. Marianne entered, face pale. "Mr. Beaumont." "Elias is missing." Damien's heart stopped. "What?" Marianne's voice shook. "Security saw him walk toward the main gate 20 minutes ago." Damien grabbed his coat because he knew what Elias would do. A boy without truth hunts for it. And Damien's mind flashed to Rosa's apartment, to the clinic, To Vivian's warning, Damien ran, but he was already late. Elias found Rosa first, and Vivian found them both. Elias climbed to Unit 3C and heard the voices through the door, Vivian threatening, Rosa refusing. "You already took my child," Rosa sobbed. "You were paid," Vivian snapped. "You were convenient." Elias knocked. The door opened. Rosa's face bruised, Vivian perfect. Elias accused. "I heard you. You said you took a child." Vivian smiled. "You're confused." Then Elias collapsed. Rosa caught him. Vivian ordered an ambulance. Rosa refused. "Beaumont Hospitals," Rosa whispered, trembling. "You'll control the results." Vivian's eyes sharpened. Rosa pulled out the sealed DNA kit. Elias whispered, weak. "What is that?" Rosa's voice broke. "This test isn't to see if Damien is your father." "Then what?" Rosa whispered, trembling. "It's to prove who your mother stole you from." Sirens wailed. Damien burst in. He saw Elias in Rosa's arms and Vivian standing like a judge. "What is going on?" Damien roared. Vivian smiled. "He fainted. He needs Beaumont General." Rosa screamed, "No." Damien froze. Elias whispered, "Dad." She took. Vivian interrupted. "He's delirious." Elias forced it out. "She took her child." The room went still. Damien turned to Vivian with deadly calm. "Tell me the truth." Vivian's smile cracked. Then she confessed like she was reciting a quarterly report. Celeste's desperate legacy. A baby bought, Rosa's baby Elias. Rosa sobbed, "He's my son." Damien took Celeste's letter, unfolded it, read, "Elias is not your son," and then his father is Victor Klein, Marianne's dead husband. Damien staggered. Rosa whispered. "Celeste was forced." Vivian's eyes went pale. Damien's voice turned ice. "You forced my wife." Vivian snapped. "I protected you." Damien looked at his son, tears rising. "You're my son," he whispered. Paramedics arrived. Rosa begged, "Not Beaumont General." Damien ordered, "St. Bridget's." Vivian hissed, "You'll destroy the Beaumont name." Damien whispered, "Good," and they left. But truth is never a single explosion. It's a fire, and Vivian was already pouring gasoline. At St. Bridget's, doctors spoke of Elias's condition. Anemia severe. Possible hereditary disorder. Bone marrow donor may be needed. Damien's stomach dropped. Family match mattered. Rosa whispered, trembling, "I have another child." Damien froze. What? A daughter Sophia 8. Damien's mind snapped into fear. Vivian had warned. The hand that keeps Elias alive. If Sophia was a match, Sophia was leverage. Damien went to the apartment building. Door ajar. Apartment ransacked. Stuffed rabbit on the table. A note pinned with a knife. "Stop digging." Damien called Rosa. "No," Rosa sobbed, hearing Sophia was gone. Then Damien's phone buzzed. A photo. Sophia on a hospital bed. A message. "Bring the necklace and the letter, or your daughter disappears forever." Rosa gasped, terror swallowing her. Damien whispered, "Beaumont General." Rosa whispered, "Her kingdom." Damien's eyes hardened. "Then we go into her kingdom, and we take our child back." Beaumont General Hospital shone like a shrine to power. Glass walls, polished floors, doctors moving like disciplined soldiers. Damien Beaumont walked in with Jonah and 2 private security guards, suits still expensive but face stripped of its usual calm. This wasn't business. This was war. At the front desk, the receptionist looked up, startled. "Mr. Beaumont." Damien leaned in, voice low. "Where is Vivian?" I can't." Damien's eyes didn't blink. "You can," he said, "unless you want to explain to the board why you obstructed the CEO in a kidnapping case." Her fingers shook as she typed. "5th floor," she whispered. Damien turned without another word. In the elevator, Jonah whispered, "Sir, cameras." Damien stared at the closing doors. "Good," he said. "Let them record who the monster is." On the 5th floor, Vivian's office door stood guarded by hospital security. They stiffened when they saw Damien. "Mr. Beaumont," Miss Beaumont said. Damien's voice snapped. "Move." They hesitated. Damien's private guard stepped forward. Credentials flashed. The hospital guards wavered and stepped aside. Damien threw open Vivian's office door. Vivian stood inside with a folder, calm. as if she'd been waiting for a late meeting. "Damien," she said softly. "You came." "Where is Sophia?" Damien demanded. Vivian's smile widened. "Safe," she said. "For now." Damien's fists clenched. "You kidnapped a child." Vivian tilted her head. "I borrowed leverage," she said. "Like you do every day." Damien stepped closer, rage vibrating in his throat. "Give her back." Vivian lifted the folder slightly. "When you hand over the necklace and Celeste's letter." Damien leaned in, voice deadly. "And if I don't?" Vivian's eyes gleamed. "Then Sophia disappears forever," she said. "And you'll watch Rosa break." Damien's chest tightened. Then he reached into his jacket slowly and pulled out a small voice recorder. He placed it on Vivian's desk. Vivian's composure faltered. "What is that?" "Insurance," Damien said. "Your confession. Stealing a child. Blackmailing Celeste." Vivian's eyes flashed with panic and fury. "You wouldn't dare." Damien's voice was quiet. "Try me." Vivian stared at him, and for the first time she realized her brother wasn't the same man. He wasn't negotiating. He was burning the table. Vivian swallowed hard. "She's in pediatrics," she hissed. "Room 512. Damien grabbed Vivian's wrist. "You're coming," Vivian struggled. "Let go." Damien tightened his grip. "You're going to return that child," he said, voice low. "And then you're going to face consequences you can't buy your way out of." They marched down the hall. Vivian's heels clicked like gunshots. Damien's heart pounded. Pediatrics. Room 512. Damien pushed the door open. Sophia sat on the bed, clutching her stuffed rabbit, eyes red and wide. She screamed, "Mama." Damien dropped to one knee. "Sophia," he said gently, "I'm here to take you home." Sophia stared at him, trembling. "Where's my mama?" she sobbed. Damien's throat tightened. "She's with Elias," he whispered. "He's sick too." Sophia's eyes widened. "They said my mama was bad," she whispered, voice breaking. "They said she stole." Damien's jaw clenched. He glanced at Vivian. Vivian's face was stone. Damien looked back at Sophia. "Your mama is brave," Damien said firmly, "and no one is going to take you again." Sophia's tears spilled. Damien stood and looked at Vivian. "You're done," he said. Vivian's eyes flashed. "This isn't over," she hissed. Damien nodded to Jonah. Jonah raised his phone and dialed an independent investigator outside Vivian's reach. Vivian's face went pale. Damien leaned toward her and whispered, "Smile." Vivian trembled. "Why?" Damien's eyes were ice. "Because the cameras are watching," he said. "And for once they're going to see the truth." Damien brought Sophia back to St. Bridget's. Rosa saw her in the hallway and dropped to her knees like her bones forgot how to hold her. Sophia ran into her arms. "Mama." Rosa clutched her, shaking, kissing her hair, whispering apologies into her skin. Damien stood back, throat tight, watching a kind of love that didn't care about wealth or reputation. Elias woke later that night, weaker but conscious. Rosa sat beside him, Sophia asleep on her lap. Damien stood at the foot of the bed, face exhausted. Elias's eyes moved from Rosa to Sophia, then to Damien. "So, she's my sister," Elias whispered. Rosa nodded through tears. "Yes," Elias swallowed hard. "And you're not my dad," he said to Damien. Damien's chest cracked. "I raised you," Damien whispered. "I loved you. I did it badly, I know." Elias's eyes filled. "Why didn't you tell me?" Damien's voice broke. "Because I was afraid," he admitted. "Afraid of losing you. Afraid of the world. Afraid of my own shame." Elias's lip trembled. "And Mom," he whispered. Damien's eyes burned. "Your mother loved you," Damien said. "In the way she could. She was trapped in a lie she helped create, and then she tried to fix it." Rosa nodded softly. "She tried," Rosa whispered. Damien took a breath. "We're doing the DNA test," he said. "Independent tonight. Swabs, sealed envelopes, chain of custody." Rosa gave her sample. Elias gave his. Damien gave his too for treatment. They sent it out, and they waited. The waiting didn't just hurt. It peeled them open. Damien's company began to shake as rumors leaked. Vivian's sudden absence sparked whispers. Investigators asked questions. Old hospital records were subpoenaed. A nurse came forward with an old recording Vivian's voice, threatening Celeste. Marianne admitted Victor had been ordered to falsify security logs the night Celeste died. And finally, the deepest secret surfaced. Celeste hadn't died in an accident. She had been pushed. Vivian was arrested. Stock dropped. Damien stood before cameras, face pale, voice steady. "My family built power on harm," he said. "I will spend the rest of my life repairing what we broke." In court, Vivian stared at Damien with hatred. "You think you're noble now?" she hissed. Damien looked at her, eyes empty. "No," he said quietly. "I think I'm late." Vivian was convicted fraud, coercion, kidnapping, manslaughter tied to Celeste's death. The judge's gavel sounded like an ending. But for Damien, it was a beginning. Outside the courtroom, Elias held Rosa's hand. Sophia clutched her rabbit. Damien approached slowly, unsure if he deserved to be near them. Elias looked up, eyes bruised by truth. "Are you still my dad?" Elias asked. Damien swallowed hard. "If you'll let me be," Damien whispered. Elias stared for a long moment. Then he stepped forward and hugged Damien. Damien hugged back, shaking like a man holding the last thing worth saving. Rosa watched, tears shining. She didn't forgive instantly. Forgiveness wasn't a switch. It was a road. Months passed. Elias's treatment improved with proper genetic information. A donor search began, and in the quiet irony of life, Sophia was a match. One small girl's blood saving her brother. Rosa cried when doctors told her. Damien cried too, silently, in a hallway where no cameras could see. The surgery went well. Elias recovered slowly. Damien changed the west wing. He didn't keep it sealed anymore. He opened the nursery, removed the dust sheets, turned it into a warm family room. One evening, Elias sat on the couch with Sophia asleep against him. Rosa stood by the window watching them, heart full and aching. Damien approached quietly. He held something in his hand. The star necklace, repaired now. Clasp fixed. He held it out to Rosa. "It's yours," he said softly. It always was. Rosa's fingers trembled as she took it. "You can't buy your way into being good," she whispered. Damien nodded. "I know," he said. "So I won't try." Rosa's eyes shone. "I'll earn it," Damien whispered. "One day at a time, if you let me." Rosa didn't answer right away. She kissed Elias's forehead, kissed Sophia's hair, then turned back to Damien. "We'll see," she whispered. Outside, the mansion lights glowed warm for the first time in years. Not because the house changed, because the people inside did. And as this story pulls back, past the windows, past the gates, past the crest that once meant power, we see something different now. A man who thought money could control fate. A woman who proved love was stronger than fear. And a boy who learned identity isn't just blood. It's who fights for you when the truth finally comes. Because the millionaire saw the cleaner give away her pay and thought he was witnessing weakness, but he was witnessing the beginning of justice. And the truth about his son didn't just break him, it rebuilt him. In the only way that mattered.